Hey everyone, it's Melody with Design by Melody. I am here with another layout using my Elle Studio March 2017 kit. There we go, about said 2016. But these photos are from March 2016. And this was the day that Kaylin and I spent out at a park. And so before I actually picked out my photos, I laid out everything that I had left in the kit. As you could see, all the cards that I had left in the little die cut pile there to the right. I laid out everything that I had left, and then I pulled out my pile of photos, and I do have them separated so I know like what I intend to scrapbook. But I just pulled out the pile of photos that were printed for scrapbooking and looked to see if anything kind of fit. And I had these from March 2016. It's kind of my title page for the March section in my album, which is why I have that March calendar card from Elle Studio, which happens to be from Elle Studio as well, funny enough. But it wasn't in this kit. It was just something I had set aside to use. So I have these photos. There are 7 photos, 1 screenshot with the weather, and then 4 3x4 photos, and those are of Kaylin. The 2 to the left are of him coming down a slide, and the 2 to the right are of him climbing up this like ladder thing. And then the one to the bottom left is of me sitting in the slide. I took a picture of the inside of the slide and my feet, and then the one to the right is of the park that we're at. So I just wanted to kind of capture this day, because I really liked, we spend a lot of time at parks and things like that. We're lucky that in Raleigh, we're in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina. In Raleigh, North Carolina, Raleigh Parks and Recs they do an awesome job about having outdoor space and keeping it up and having trails and things like that for everybody to walk in inside city limits, which is really kind of nice. There's a lot of green space, so we like to enjoy that. And Kaylin is definitely an outside kid, so he likes to be outside, and so we just take advantage of that. Now, my kit did not have enough for me to use for this layout. There was one 4x6 card left, but I didn't like it. I needed more color. And there were not enough 3x4 cards that matched my color scheme as well. So as you can see, the photos have a lot of blue and yellow, and of course the sand from the playground. So I pulled out all of my Elle Studio cards that were not in kits. I have a whole giant pile of 3x4 cards, as you definitely saw, and then not as big of a pile of 4x6 cards, but I still have probably 50 or so 4x6 cards. So I just went through those piles and found some ones that would work. And I had first put out this kind of lighter blue, and I ended up changing it out for more of a confetti card with the, it has yellow, green, and blue on it, and some red, I believe. But it fits a little bit better with the color scheme, and it brings a little bit more of a lighter card up to the top. I needed just something that wasn't quite so bold up here at the top. Now the cards, because I'm putting a photo on each of the 3x4 cards, the cards itself, they didn't necessarily have to say anything special, or even if they did, it didn't matter because I was covering it up. I was more so looking for the color. So I have 2 that are yellow, one that came in this kit and one that I pulled from my stash, and then 2 that are blue, both from my stash. And so I was just looking for the overall color there to match. And I cut down that March 2016 card to fit on that 4x6 card to the top. Now, if you guys have watched me for a while, you will notice that I did not actually mat my 2 4x6 cards on white like I normally do. I normally will mat all my 4x6 cards on white with the little white border to match my 4x6 photos, because I do have my photos with the white border, which is what I prefer. But because I replaced that top right card with a confetti card, it already was light enough. It didn't need a white border. And then the one to the left with the yellow had that white border at the bottom, so I didn't feel like it needed a white border all around. Now, if I had had a 4x6 photo at the top with the white border, I probably would have put a white border on the other card. But since I didn't feel the need to, and I feel like it still feels very balanced across the whole page itself. Now, I took that 3x4 this week card and I trimmed it down, and I'm going to use that for my journaling. Now, I'm not necessarily going to put the journaling on a specific day. However, I did start the journaling on the Tuesday, which is the day that that this was. You can see that by the weather screenshot that I took. You can tell that it's a Tuesday. So I just kind of start my journaling on that day there. And all it says is 75 degrees today in March. Such an amazing day outside. Kaylin and I took advantage of the sun and played at the park. Then back down to temps in the 30s and high 20s, as you can see on the layout itself. I mean, on the what do you call that? weather thing itself. So every once in a while I like to include that, and sometimes I have a difficult time figuring out how to print those screenshots, but I can't remember who I got that from. So I ordered from two different places, and one of them I order my collage prints from, and one of them I order my other prints from. I think I order my collage prints from Snapfish, and I order my regular prints from Shutterfly because of the white border. I am like obsessive about printing my photos with the white border, and I do have some that don't have the white border, but I prefer to print with the white border if I can at all help it. So that is that, and I'm just adding my journaling. So I have this So Good banner, and I had the little yellow banner that was left, and I layered them together, and I added a little bit of journaling, and I don't like the way that it looks. I feel like it looks crowded, so I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to move that So Good banner over to a different photo, and then I'm going to use this little gray label that says This Moment, and I'm going to put my journaling on that instead. I thought about layering the So Good on top of it, but it's just too big, so I'm going to trim down that So Good just a little bit, as well as make another banner end on the So Good. I think I said trim down that So Good. No, I'm going to trim down the gray label just a little bit to add my journaling, and then I'm also going to create a banner end on the other side of the So Good label and put that on the different photo. So the journaling on this photo here says, so it says This Moment, that's already printed on that gray label, and I put Kaylin finally had enough courage to climb to the top. So he was always kind of afraid of this little ladder thing because it's one of those ladders that goes up and it curves the top, so then it levels out with the top of the platform. Well, he never had a problem climbing up the ladder. It was whenever it would curve to the top, he was very fearful of crawling across the top of the monkey bar kind of thing, because he always felt like he was going to fall through them. So this was kind of the first day that he really had enough courage to do it on its own without a spotter. He always wanted somebody there just in case he fell. So this time he had enough courage to do it on its own. It was just he and I at the playground that day. There weren't any other kids, and that's why we were kind of playing on it together. I can't remember why he was home that day, because he would have been he probably was just out of school. So his school is like a modified traditional schedule to where it's close to a traditional schedule, but it's a little bit similar to also a year-round schedule, and he has 2 weeks off in March. So I believe he was also off this week, and regular schools, public schools in our area were not off, so there weren't any kids playing out around anywhere, which is why there aren't any other kids in the playground. I also can't remember what time it was. What time was it? It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You would have thought that there would have been other kids there. I actually know what time it is because of the weather app. You can see what time I took that photo. All right, so now I'm trying to see what else I want to do on this bottom left photo. So I actually took this photo with Project Life in mind. Funny enough, I never pre-planned that because I'm just not... I want to say I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but I just don't ever think about it during the day. I think about it as I'm looking through photos, but not as I'm taking photos. But I was actually very mindful this day of making sure I had a photo that would be a good filler photo, and that wasn't necessarily full of people or full of pictures of us doing something. It was a little bit more just kind of a decorative card, and it was a little bit different. I don't normally take photos like this, so I really liked the way that it was. I was very pleased with myself. But I'm going to use some of that yellow space around that's just the plain yellow, and I wrote up some journaling on a little bit of the strips of paper that I had left over from the kit, and I just am putting that on that yellow space. So it just says, today I decided to join Kaylin on the slides. Gluing down the last little bits of things, looking around to see what I like and what does not work and what may work. And then I am going to go ahead and put in my journaling. And I've already told you what this journaling says. Just putting this card together. When I scrapbook, I usually lay everything out and kind of do the basis of how it's going to look. And then I start gluing things down and adding journaling and adding embellishing. Sometimes I commit from the get-go, sometimes I don't. Just depends on how I'm feeling about that particular item that I'm working with. But usually I kind of lay things around the page first, and then I start gluing them down kind of midway through. I've always thought it's really nice to see people do one card at a time, but that's not me. I have to do kind of the whole thing at one time. I have to keep it all laid out in front of me. I can't work from card to card. I have to see the whole thing because to me, it needs to kind of coordinate together. They're all each a single layout in a sense, but they all are right beside each other as well. So I don't want to have two cards right beside each other that are extremely, I was going to say bold, but not necessarily bold, but maybe I wouldn't want to have two cards together with maybe the journaling in the exact same spot or the same elements on each of them and then not have them anywhere else on the page. So I like to be able to see all of it together just to see what I feel looks good and what I feel feels balanced. So this last little die cut that I'm working with, it says "This moment so special." And I just wanted to include it. I liked it. And it's one of the final last little embellishments that remains in this kit that I had not used yet. But that's going to be the very last thing that I add on this page. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and stay tuned. I think this is going to be the last layout that I make, so I will have a Kill a Kit video for this kit for you guys up soon. All right, thank you so much. Bye.